Hi Shilpa.
Hi,
Hi, good evening. How are you?
I'm doing good.
Actually, I was in the middle of something. That's what I am. Last
No problem, no problem. Yeah.
minutes. So the last session we have discussed. Are you able to see my desktop?
Yeah.
We have started with the software development lifecycle, and we have discussed about the different stages in the SDLC. You have any questions on that?
No, not right now.
Okay. You have started recording?
Yeah, I have.
Okay, fine. So the today's session will talk about the different SDLC models that we have, and
Mm-hmm.
different projects will follow different models based on the client needs. So let us talk about the different models that we have. The first one is the waterfall model.
Mm-hmm.
So this waterfall model is one of the oldest methodology followed to create, to design a project. We can follow this model in the olden days. So that's why it is
Mm-hmm.
one of the oldest methodology. This kind of a model is followed whenever the customer requirements are clear and complete. Whenever a customer has given a complete and clear requirements, we can
Mm-hmm.
use this model. So whenever the customer requirements are clear and complete, that means whenever there are some changes in the middle of the project, we cannot accept it. So that's why whenever the customer has been given a complete and clear requirements, then only we can use this model. And this model is one of the oldest software development methodology, as already mentioned. And this model, the other name for this one is a linear sequential model.
Okay.
The other name for this model is linear. Why? Because we have to follow all the steps in the SDLC process sequentially one by one. So it follows the logical progression of all the defining the requirements, analyzing and designing the system, and testing and implementing and
Mm-hmm.
maintaining the system, and everything we have to follow sequentially one by one. That's why it is called as a linear sequential model. And one thing that we need to understand here is this model. In this model, you can go to the next phase only when the earlier phase is completed. You cannot go to the next phase until the previous phase of the SDLC process is completed. So this is what you need to understand. For example,
Mm-hmm.
what I can say here is if you are in the coding phase, so this is the all the prior phases to the coding should be completed in order to reach to the coding, in order to go to the coding. Why? Because this coding phase will not be started until the earlier phases are completed. What are the earlier phases? We have design phase is there, and we also have the analysis and requirements gathering. These are the different phases that you have prior to the this particular coding part.
Mm-hmm.
So that is what um, this particular model talks about. So requirements gathering. So these are the different phases in the. So we have already seen in the last class, testing and then maintenance, release and maintenance. So these are the different phases that we have. So this phase, when you want to start the particular any of the phase, you want to go to the
Mm-hmm.
analysis phase. First, the requirements gathering phase should be completed. You want to go to the design phase. All the earlier phases, the analysis and requirements gathering should be completed. To go to the coding phase, all the earlier phases, you cannot go to the next phase until the earlier phases are completed.
Mm-hmm.
Understood the
Yeah.
point? In this
Yeah.
model, the next phase begins only when the earlier phase is completed. And this model is very simple. This is one of the simplest methodology, and easy to plan and manage. Very simple to plan and manage this model. Very easy to follow this particular methodology. And this particular methodology is not suitable for the projects when the requirements are changing dynamically. whenever the requirements are changing from time to time. When the
Mm-hmm.
requirements are changing, this model is not suitable for that particular projects. So that's what the requirements are given by the customer are very clear and complete, then only we can follow this one. Whenever there are some
Mm-hmm.
changes, we cannot use this particular model.
Okay.
Understood?
Yeah.
So what we have to understand here is the phases do not overlap. That means at the end of the each and every phase, a review will be takes place to determine if the project is on the um, right direction or not, and whether or continue or to discard the project. That means in the waterfall model, the phases whatever we are doing that do not overlap. That's why once the one phase is completed, we'll go to the next phase. So the main advantage of this model is simple and easy to understand and easy to use this model. And the small projects, when you are implementing this methodology, is very useful for smaller projects where the requirements are very easy to understand. And this
Mm-hmm.
one is also one of the um, easiest model to manage, because of this particular, once the phase is completed, we are going to the next phase. Because of that, it is very easy to manage also. And the
Mm-hmm.
disadvantage is high amount of risk is there. Why? Because you have implemented everything, and if the outcome of the project is not good, then there may be a risk associated with that. So that's why the high amount of risk and uncertainty is there when you are using this kind of model. And this model is not suitable for when the requirements are changing. So the requirements, the customer wants to change the requirements at any point of time. That kind of facility should be given to the customer. If the requirements are not changing, then he will not satisfy. So that's why this is one of the disadvantage. And also we are not producing the working software until during the life cycle. Until late, it will be very late when you, 1 second.
Uh-huh.
Okay. So the working software is not produced until late during the life cycle. So it is very late to see the working software, because all the phases we have to complete, and then
Mm-hmm.
only we can see the software. That is also one of the disadvantage that we can see here. And it is also very not suitable for the projects whenever the customer requirements are changing. This is not suitable. So that's why this is one of the disadvantage that we can see in the waterfall model. Understood?
Yeah.
When we can use this model is whenever the requirements are very well known and very clear and complete, and the
Mm-hmm.
technology and whatever you are going to implement is understood. If there are no ambiguous in the requirements are very well clear. And if the project is very small project, very short project, then only we can use this model.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Understood?
Yeah.
So that's about the waterfall model. And the next one is the second one is the prototype model. This model is also one of the uh, oldest methodology. The
Mm-hmm.
second one is the prototype model. So prototype model is followable in the companies when the customer requirements consist of ambiguity. If there is an ambiguity in the customer requirements, we can use this kind of methodology. So ambiguity means the customer has not provided a complete and clear requirements. There is no clarity on the requirements. No clarity on the requirements given by the client. So we can use this methodology. That means the ambiguity is there in the requirement, that is not clear and complete. So that means that in order to get the complete requirements, the company is developing a sample requirements. So the company has to develop the sample requirements. So sample are, that is nothing but a prototype. So prototype is just a kind of a sample that they will design and then show it to the customer whether it is okay or not. Why? Because the customer has no knowledge on the particular requirements of the what they want exactly. So for that, so in order to get the complete requirements, the company is developing a sample or a prototype first, and this particular methodology assumes that the customer doesn't have the definition of the requirements. The customer doesn't have the rigid definition of the requirements. Customer doesn't have given the requirements what they want exactly. So based on the market needs and based on the customer what he is expecting, based on that the company is developing one sample prototype, and this prototype follows an approach. The other name, the prototyping approach, is also known as the evolutionary approach. The other name for this one is evolutionary approach. And this prototype is follows a rule, I will know it when I see it. So this is the rule that followed, I will know it when I see it. So the customer will know when he see the prototype. That is the thing that we need to understand. I will know it when I see it is the rule followed in the prototype approach. So I will know it means I will know it when I see it means when I see the prototype what is developed by the company, then only I can know the particular requirements. So that is only the rule it is followed, and after the prototype is developed or built, it is delivered to the customer for evaluation. So the prototype whatever developed by the company, that will be delivered to the customer for evaluation. So the evaluation means we will collect the feedback from the customer based on the evaluation whatever has done. So he will go to that particular prototype and he will see whether it is satisfying his requirements or not, he will see. So the prototype will help the customer to understand how the features will work in the software. So in the software, whatever the features that we implemented, after implementing how the software will looks like, that will be determined based on this particular prototype only. So how the features will function in the software you can only come to know based on this particular prototype only. So whatever the features that we are going to implement, that will be shown prior to implementing, but the customer will go through that one, and then he will this prototype will helps the customer to understand and determine how the feature will function in the final software. In the final software, how it will works only he can know, and the customer will provide some suggestions and improvements on the prototype. So he will provide some feedback on the prototype after completion of this analysis. So feedback is provided on the prototype. And based on this feedback, the customer given feedback, again the company will modify the prototype, and then again it will be shown to the customer. This process will be continued until the user believes the system that contains the requirements desired by the user. So whatever the customer requirement that exactly wanting, until the customer requirements are satisfied, he will only the prototype development cycles and everything will be continued until the user wants the particular system, until the user believes the system that contains the requirements that are desired by the particular user. And that's why this model is taking more time, long time. Why? Because it is a very heavy, high cost. It will take. Why? Because the requirements only taking more time, and then all the phases will also take time, and then it will take more time also to develop the project also. That's one another disadvantages. But nowadays we are not following this model. That's why it is the old methodology at the time whenever the customer doesn't have the requirements, then only this particular model will be followable, but it is not now. Okay.
Okay. Okay.
And the next one is the third model that we are going to discuss is the spiral model. And this model is also known as iterative model. The other name for this one is iterative model. And this model is followable whenever the customer requirements are enhancing. That means companies are developing multiple versions of the same software. So that means the companies are developing multiple versions of the same software. Means example you can consider as Windows operating system. So Windows operating system, we have different flavors are there. We have initially we have 95 is there, and then later NT, Windows 98, Windows 2000, Windows 2003, Server 2003. We have Windows 95. We have Windows. The different versions are there. Windows 2000 and Windows XP is there, and Windows we have Vista, Windows Millennium, and you have Windows 6, like different. Windows 7 is there, and we
Right.
have latest different. So they are developing the same software, but multiple versions of the same software they are developing. In order to develop such kind of projects, we can follow this methodology. The spiral model will be very helpful for them to follow this kind of spiral model. That means the company is developing the same software, but with the different versions of the same software they are developing. In order to implement this particular kind of projects, we use the spiral model. So the spiral model, everything the project is repeatedly we are following, and we are repeatedly following the same phases again and again in the spiral model. Why? Because whenever there are some changes are there, we can implement the same approach when there are. Why? Because here the same project is divided into different. So the big project is divided into small parts. That's why every part is nothing but an iteration. So the small part, and each part is subjected to different iterations, and at the end of the each and every iteration, the iteration will take some duration of the time, and at the end of each and every iteration, a new software is a new module is developed, or the existing module is enhanced. So at the end of each and every iteration, new module is developed, or the existing module is enhanced. So if there are some changes are there, we will implement the changes in that. That is nothing but an enhancement to the existing one. If there are some only the new module you are implementing, you are going to develop that new module in each and every iteration. At the end of the iteration, new module is developed, or the existing module is enhanced. And the objective of this particular methodology is to develop the system in increments. So develop the system in parts. Part wise we are developing system in parts. They already know what to implement, but they are developing each and every the system in parts only, and these each and every part you can easily manage, and each and every part will have all the phases like requirements gathering, analysis, design, and then implementation, and then testing, and everything we have to follow for each and every iteration. And this particular is also another costly model to use, and another disadvantage with this one, and this will not work for the smaller projects, only the big project. The project success is highly dependent on the risk analysis, and the success of this particular project is highly dependent on uh, um, the iterations only. Why? Because the incremental model can be effective in reducing the risk of investing and building an entire system when the outcome is questionable. So when you don't know what is the outcome is questionable, then you can stop in the middle, and you can discontinue that particular project. The best example is the Windows Vista is one of the operating system which was not popular, and immediately they have stopped releasing that one, and then they went to the other version of the operating system. So whenever the outcome of the particular system, the entire system is in questionable, then we cannot continue. This can be effective in so that we can reduce the risk of investing and then building the entire system when the outcome is questionable.
Right.
And the advantage of this one is the feedback is immediately available at the end of each and every iteration, so that we can continue or discontinue the next iteration. So the test feedback is immediately available at the end of each and every iteration, so that we can use this particular model to continue or discontinue the remaining iteration. Whenever the requirements are very complex, also we can also follow this methodology, and the medium and high risk projects also we can follow, and the long term projects commitment, whenever the project is long duration, that kind of projects we can implement this spiral model. Understood?
Yeah.
And the last one is the agile model, so which is one of the popularly used model these days. The clients are using this model, and let us talk about the agile. So agile model, this agile methodology is one of the latest methodology which the organizations are following. So this model is followable when the customer requirements are changing. Whenever the customer requirements are changing dynamically, we can use this methodology. So that means the customer requirements are changing from time to time. So you have developed one requirement and customer wants some sudden change. Yes, they can be accepted. So for such type of projects, we can use this agile model. That's why the clients are using this model. Whenever they want some change, there is a flexibility to change the requirements at any point of time. So agile model, as the name refers to, something to do very quickly. So we have to release the software very quickly, and then make that particular product very useful. And so the agile testing refers to validate the client requirements as soon as possible and make it a customer friendly software in the market. So as the name indicates, it's something to do very quickly, and agile testing here refers to validate the client requirements as soon as possible and make it a customer friendly software. So that's why the agile model is followed, and one of the popularly used method under this agile is Scrum methodology. Scrum is one of the methodology that we have to follow in order to implement this agile methodology. We have to follow this Scrum methodology. So Scrum methodology, there is no acronym for this Scrum. So no definition of this acronym. The acronym SCRUM, there is no acronym for this one, but people are telling that there is some acronym, but there is no acronym as per my understanding. So this Scrum is also an agile development methodology, so which follows the agile development methodology, and which is used to manage the task within the team-based environment. And this Scrum is an agile development method which concentrates particularly on how to manage the task within the team-based environment. So a team of some few people are only involved in the Scrum team. Some 6 to 10 people are involved, and this Scrum team will work together as a team, and in order to complete the task and manage the task. And basically this is followed with the different roles are there. Again in the Scrum we have different different terminologies you need to understand in the Scrum. So we have different roles are there in the Scrum. Unlike we don't have any roles in other methodology, but here specifically we have different roles are there. The first one is the Scrum Master. So Scrum Master is kind of a project manager category. People will fulfill this task, but can be anyone. Project manager category people will act as a Scrum Master. And what the Scrum Master will do? The Scrum Master will facilitate the daily Scrum meeting. So daily Scrum meeting he will facilitate, and daily we have a Scrum meeting for 15 minutes, and every project team member will participate in that meeting and they will discuss only 3 questions. What did you do yesterday, what you are going to do today, and any other impediments or issues in your way. Any issues that you are facing that are brought up to the notice of the Scrum Master so that he can resolve. So the Scrum Master is facilitates a daily Scrum meeting, and any issues he will resolve, any issues faced by the team members. Any issues faced by the team members that are brought up to his notice during the Scrum meeting, that should be team members that should be resolved by the Scrum Master as soon as possible. And this Scrum Master role can be performed by anyone. It is this role is typically filled by the project manager, and but can be anyone, but can be any technical team member, and but can be anyone who will be able to manage the task. Can also work as a not only the project manager, but the technical team member or any other team member can also represented as a Scrum Master. Understood?
Okay. Yeah.
The next one is you have Scrum Team is there. As already mentioned, we have a Scrum Team is there, which is used to manage the task, and the Scrum Team is consists of some 6 to 10 people. 6 to 10 people are involved, and these again will consist of all the business. It includes the business analyst, the development team member, the testers, and the database people. So limited people are there. One business analyst, 2 developers, 1 or 2 testers, and 1 database team member. Like so, that is a very small team, so that they can own their work and then organize the work to complete within the sprint. So we have one more terminology, that is a sprint.
Okay.
Sprint, you can call it as iteration also. Another name is also cycle. So the Scrum Team is able to manage and its own work and then organizes the work to complete within the sprint cycle or within the timeline. So only the people, 6 to 10 people are involved in the Scrum Team, and here a sprint is nothing but the duration allocated to the project. So every sprint will have some requirements, and all the requirements are to be managed, and all the requirements are to be developed and then tested and then released to the client. So that is a sprint. You can also call it as an iteration or a cycle also. Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
And we also have one more role, that is a product owner. Product owner is from a client. So he is from client side only, and he is a representative from the client, and he is one of the key stakeholder in the project, one of the key person in the project, and he will only prioritize the task, which task we have. He is responsible for prioritizing the task, which task we have to do first and which task we have to do later point of time. He will prioritizes the task, what we are going to do first and what we are going to do next, and like that. And also he is only responsible for delivery of the functionality. Delivery of the functionality at the end of each and every sprint. So the functionality who will deliver to the client, so based on this particular product owner only responsible for delivery of the functionality at the end of each and every iteration.
Iteration, okay.
Each sprint or iteration, whatever you call. At the end of, once the sprint is completed, so we need to deliver it to the client. Who will deliver? The product owner will deliver. Product owner is responsible for the delivery of the each and every functionality at the end of each and every sprint. Understood?
Yeah.
And we also have one more thing. As already mentioned, every day we have a daily Scrum meeting. So the daily Scrum meeting happens only the duration is only 15 minutes. It should not exceed more than 15 minutes. And in this meeting, on each day of the sprint, the team member will hold the daily meetings, and these meetings happen at the same time and at the same location. and these meetings generally happen in the morning. During the daily Scrum meeting, each team member provides answer to only 3 questions only they have to answer. As already mentioned, what did you do yesterday? And what did you do yesterday? And what will you do today? And then any issues or any impediments or any issues they will discuss in that meeting. So each and every team member should answer these 3 questions. What did you do yesterday? So that everyone knows what team member is doing, working on what, and what will you do today? What is your today's task? And then if there is no task, they will assign some task. And then any issues or impediments or any problems that you are facing, that also we need to discuss all these 3 points. If there are no issues, you can tell no issues from your end like that. So this is nothing but the daily Scrum meeting, and which is organized by the Scrum Master only organized, and all the stakeholders and all the team members in the project should attend in that meeting also. And this will happen. The daily Scrum meetings are held in the morning, and typically held in the same location and at the same time each day. A particular time, the same time happens, and all the project team members should participate in that meeting, and they will answer only these 3 questions only. And the next one is the other definition in the Scrum is you also have the product backlog and sprint backlog. 2 terminologies are there. These are the product backlog and the sprint backlog. So the product backlog, which is also known as a backlog, is the requirements for the system, the entire system. And then based on the prioritization, the list of all the requirements are mentioned here. So the requirements, we are calling them as user stories here. We are not calling them as requirements in the Scrum methodology. We are calling them as user stories only, which is nothing but the requirements in the other methodologies. We are not calling them as requirements, we are calling them as user stories. So the product backlog is nothing but the requirements for the system. It consists of all the requirements for the system, and which are expressed as a prioritized list of the product backlog items. These included both the functional as well as the non-functional customer requirements are also nothing but the stories that are to be completed are mentioned in the product backlog. Whatever the user stories that you are going to be completed are mentioned in this product backlog, and product backlog item is just a unit of work only that is to be completed by a time in one sprint iteration. In the one sprint duration of the time, what are the tasks that you are going to complete, that will be mentioned in the product backlog. That is nothing but the master list of all the functionalities that are desired, that are going to implement in a particular project are mentioned in the product backlog. So master list of all the functionalities that are going to be implemented in the project are mentioned in the product backlog, and sprint backlog is nothing but the few functionalities only. The list of the tasks that the Scrum team is committing to complete, that they will complete in the current sprint. What are the tasks that you are going to complete in the current sprint? So current sprint, what are the tasks that you are completing? That we have to mention in this section. What are the tasks you are going to complete, that we have to mention in this section. And the master list of all the functionalities that you are going to implement, entire project functionalities are mentioned here. So out of all these functionalities, we can take some of the functionalities and then we can implement in the sprint backlog. So that we can implement some of the functionalities from the backlog only. So backlog is the master list which has all the list and the data to be prioritized, which task you have to complete first and that one. So but the sprint backlog is nothing but whatever the functionalities that you are going to complete in the current sprint is nothing but your sprint backlog, and that is also the set of tasks that must be completed to realize the sprint goals and selected set of the product backlog items. So from the product backlog only we are selecting some of the items and then we are completing in the current sprint cycle. That is nothing but your sprint backlog. Understood?
Yeah.
And before starting this one, we will be having some planning meeting is there, that is called sprint planning meeting. This is hosted by the Scrum. The product owner will also attend this meeting. The Scrum Master, the entire Scrum team, and other customer representatives will also attend in this meeting, so that they can prioritize. During this meeting, the product owner will describe the high priority features to the team. Whatever the features that we are going to implement first and what are we are going to implement next, and everything they will be discussed in that meeting, and that will be decided by the product owner will decide those whichever features we are going to implement first, and whichever features, the priority based on the high, medium and low, they will decide. High, medium and low. High priorities will be verified first, and then medium and then low priority. The task one is the highest priority first, and then medium and then low priority requirements are selected.
Okay.
Understood this one?
Yeah.
So this is just only the methodologies only you need to understand, no need to go in depth wise, but the which model is useful for which kind of projects, and that one you need to understand, but not in depth, not required. No one will ask about each and everything in the interviews.
Okay. So like my just quick question, the Scrum methodology is a type of agile methodology?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Or is it a part of agile methodology?
Yeah, it is. In order to implement in order to follow the agile process, we have different methodologies are there. We have extreme programming and Scrum. So one of the popularly used one is the Scrum.
Okay.
Got my point?
Yeah.
So that's about the different what the models that are followed by the organizations, and the next one is Sdlc.
There is one more model, right? The V model. Is that?
Yeah. That we will discuss tomorrow. Okay.
Okay. So it is not a part of Sdlc?
Yeah, it is not a part, but most of the times you will see as a part of that, but it is a different one. In order to understand the V model, you need to understand the software testing life cycle. Without understanding this, you cannot go with the V model. That's what I'm just going to the next one as a Sdlc, software testing life cycle.
Okay.
After this only you can understand there are different terminologies are there in the V model, verification and validation. That one you need to understand. So let us talk about the Sdlc, then we will move on to the V model tomorrow session.
Okay.
Software testing life cycle is not just a single activity. It is a group of stages are there. It is a multiple activities we have to perform as a team, and without performing these activities, you cannot deliver the quality product. In order to certify your software product, we are following a sequence of activities. We are following methodologically in order to certify the software application, and these activities are nothing but the software testing life cycle. In order to certify, in order to verify the functionalities in the application. We are following the different activities, and these activities constitute the software testing life cycle. So there are different stages are there in the software testing life cycle. All these stages are the 6 stages are, the first one is the requirements gathering, that nothing but the requirements analysis.
Mm-hmm.
The next one is test planning. The next one is test case development. Next one is test environment setup. Next one is test case execution. Next one is test cycle closure. So these are the different stages in the software testing life cycle. So these are the different stages that we have in the software testing life cycle. All these stages we have to follow in order to verify the functionalities in the application. In order to certify your software application, we have to follow all these stages. Requirement analysis, test planning, test case development, test environment setup, test case execution, and test cycle closure. So let us talk about each and every stage one by one. First one is the requirement analysis phase. During the requirement analysis phase, what the testing team will do? So testing team will study the requirements of the customer from the testing point of view. Whatever the requirements given by the client, we will go through all the documents. All the documents we should have to go through during this phase and then analyze the requirements as part. At the customer point of view, we have to. All the documents are nothing but your BRS, the FRS document, and any other and other documents that are provided by the client. So all the documents we have to go through and then study the requirement from the testing point of view. What we are going to test, what is the input and what is the output, and is there any dependencies there, that we have to analyze from the testing point of view. We have to study the requirement. So from the testing point of view, we have to study all the requirements of the customer given in the documentation, and whether the requirement is testable or not. You have to come to a conclusion after the analysis of the requirements. So that the testing team during the analysis, the testing team may also interact with the other team members, other stakeholders, interact with the other stakeholders in the project. Other stakeholders in the project means they may interact with the business analyst, they may interact with the client, they may interact with the project manager, they may interact with the development team, they may also interact with the system architects, like that. So other team members in the project are nothing but these are the different people that are involved in a project. So they may interact with all these team members to understand the requirements in detail. So if you have any questions on the requirements, in order to understand everything, you have to interact with the other team members' requirements in detail. You can interact with the other team members in the project. So why you are interacting is, the reason behind this one is, in order to understand the requirements in detail, you may interact with the other team members. And then if there is an automation feasibility is there, you also need to analyze the feasibility of automating this particular automation feasibility is also there or not, you have to verify. So automation feasibility for the given testing project is also done at this stage. Automation feasibility is also done during this particular stage, done during this stage of SDLC process. So automation is nothing but whether this particular project is testing manually or automatically, client will decide. Based on that one, if the automation we have to perform, and we have to do analysis on the automation also, whether this particular feature is automatable using the tools or not. By using QTP or other tools, we can automate or not. We can also decide during the requirement analysis stage of the Sdlc process. Understood?
Yeah.
And once the analysis and everything is completed during the analysis, the requirement analysis stage of software testing life cycle, the next one is the test planning phase. This one is also known as test strategy phase. The other name for this one is strategy. So strategy is nothing but the approach, whatever the approach that you are following in order to test, that you have to mention. Approach to be followed by the testing team in order to test the application is nothing but your test planning. And in this phase, the senior category people like the test manager or the test lead category people are involved during this phase, and these will provide some effort estimation. Effort estimation is nothing but the time required to test the application. The person hour, the number of hours required, how many number of hours are required in order to test the particular functionality requirement, and everything we have to, including the analysis, test case designing, test execution, defect reporting, and everything is taken into consideration while providing an effort estimation. So they will define the effort estimation during this phase, and they will also provide the test planning, when to start testing and how to test. That is nothing but the strategy for the various types of testing. So we'll provide the test plan for the various types of testing. So various types of testing, whatever you are doing for all the types, you have to mention the strategy, the approach you are following, you have to mention in this section. And also, if there is an automation feasibility there, you have to select the test tool selection. Automation feasibility is there. What type of tool you are selecting, whether QTP or Selenium you are using, like that you have to mention. What type of tool you are using for implementing the automation. And then the resource planning, how many number of resources we are using in this particular project. And then the roles and responsibilities. What is the role of this particular, whether he is a test engineer or senior or lead or manager, like that. Roles and responsibilities we have to mention. And also we have to mention the training. Any training is required for the new resources who joined recently. We need to provide some training. So the training requirement is also there. We have to mention whichever training that is providing to the team member, so that they can gain some knowledge on the application, so that there should not be any problem while testing the application. So in order to overcome that, we have to provide the training sessions to the new joinees in the project. Understood?
Yeah.
And once the test case, test planning and everything is completed, we will go for the next stage, that is the test case development or the designing. So during the test case development, all the testers are involved. Mainly the testers are involved during this phase of this one. The testers are involved, and all the assigned work, they will start designing the test cases. So that means they can create new test cases here, and also they can modify the existing test cases. And then the review of the test cases is also there. Review of test cases, whatever you have written. As the review is done, you have to modify. So modify the test cases. And then the finalize, nothing but the baseline the test cases. Finalizing the test cases once the review is over. Similarly, you can also create some test data also. So the test data is nothing but the data required. Create, modify, the test data. Create and modify the test data, nothing but the data required to test the application is nothing but the test data. In order to test the application, you have to create the test data. Like if you are working on any of the banking application, you have to test, you need some valid account numbers. Without having valid account numbers, either the checking account or saving, whatever kind of account, a deposit account, whatever account you are maintaining, that account valid number is required. Without having the valid account number, you cannot test the application. So for that kind of application, we need to create the test data, and if required, you have to modify the data also. So the main thing that we are doing in the test case development phase is the creation of the test case and verifying, nothing but review of the test case, and then rework, nothing but modifying of the test cases, whatever you are doing, either manual or automation. So manual or automation you are creating here. Manual test cases or automation you are doing in this phase. So the test data is also maintained. Test data is also created and then reviewed. If the test environment is available, we can create the test cases also. So the main thing that we are performing here is creation of the new test cases, review of the test cases, modifying the test cases, baseline, nothing but finalizing the test cases, creation of the test data and modifying the test data, and we are preparing both manual and automation test cases during the test case development stage. Now nothing but either manual or automation. If it is only manual, you are only doing manual. If it is manual, you are doing manual only. If both are there, you can conduct both manual and automation.
Automation.
Okay, understood?
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's all for the today's session. We will continue the remaining three stages and the V model in the tomorrow session.
Okay. Okay.
Any questions before winding up?
For you said that manual or automation test cases. So if a project has, so we are those test cases a different type?
No, whatever manual test cases that we have written, we will convert them into an automation only. So there are no new test cases in the automation. Whatever manual only that the manual team is writing, that will be converted into an automation by the automation testers only.
Okay.
Yeah, and that too, 100% automation we cannot perform, only 60 or 50 to 60% only we can automate. Not every test case need not automate. Only whichever test cases you are repeatedly using and whichever test cases are having more kind of regression you are performing, that kind of test cases only we can consider for our automation only. So if there is any kind of a test cases which involves more manual intervention, then we cannot automate. So wherever we possible only we can automate, and that too 100% automation is not possible as per the standards.
Okay. Yeah.
Any other questions?
No.
Okay, Shulba, thank you. Bye.
Thank you so much. Good night.
See you tomorrow. Yeah.
Yeah. Sure. Bye.